Production of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly. Our topics this week: picking priorities for Kansas City, picking a salary for state legislators, and picking the odds for Brownback International Airport, plus roast and toast. But we start with our Newsmaker segment and focus on Kansas City, Missouri, and some of the key issues now under consideration. The list is extensive: downtown and its future development, the future of the often discussed convention hotel, what happens at KCI, renovation or rebuilding, a seemingly endless stream of initiative petitions, and an $800 million infrastructure bond issue on the April 4th ballot, and that's just the short list. Here to talk about council activities is 4th District Councilwoman Jolie Justice, serving her first term. Before joining the council, Ms. Justice, an attorney, served 8 years in the Missouri Senate. Jolie Justice, welcome to Ruckus. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Well, you're the head of the council's airport committee, and you must have been somewhat surprised when you read in the Kansas City Star that Governor Brownback and some people in Kansas are talking about an airport in Johnson County.
You know, Mike, for the last year and a half, I've been talking about the airport nonstop, and that is a rumor that I'd been hearing circulate, but what surprised me was the confirmation from Brownback's office that indeed they were looking at it.
Is it unrealistic to think that there will be an airport in Johnson County anytime in the near future?
I think that it is a long shot, to say the least. But one of the things that I want to make sure that everybody understands is airlines really are driving this right now based on what they need for their customers. And they, I think, are not going to be able to wait forever to expand their base. And so one of the things that we have to understand is we need to move forward as a city if we want to make sure that that doesn't become a closer reality.
Well, this is really kind of a break for people in Kansas City, Missouri who want to move forward on the airport, is it not? The fact that there is talk about something going on in Johnson County?
I think that it obviously is a wake-up call and lights a fire under folks who maybe were on the fence. I think that it doesn't obviously answer all of the questions that Kansas Cityans have, and that's one thing we have to do is spend more time making sure the public understands what it is that we need to move forward.
Well, what is your personal preference? A one-terminal, brand-new airport?
You know, it's interesting. When I first accepted this position as airport committee chair, I was a blank slate, and I did not have a preference. I actually asked the mayor at one point not to involve me in anything with the airport because I didn't have a deeply held belief. Now that I've gone through 2 years almost of learning everything there is to know about airport financing and the future of KCI, I am absolutely in favor of a single terminal so that we can have a convenient, modern terminal moving forward.
Columnist Steve Rose, who's going to be on our panel later in the program, wrote a column a few weeks ago saying, why doesn't the city council just go ahead and pass it? Just do it without a public vote. Do you have to have a public vote?
Legally, we do not have to have a public vote, but politics is the art of what's possible, and we have promised the people of Kansas City they will have a vote, and they will have a vote on this.
How soon do you think that vote will take place?
If it were up to me solely, and it clearly is not, I would love to see a vote in November of this year, but I understand that we have a lot of questions that we need to answer to the public, and we need a lot more public engagement before we can get there. You
know, something, Councilwoman, that's always interested me is that people say they like KCI because it's convenient. Is there any reason that a new airport would not be equally convenient?
You know, what's exciting is that the new airport will be, in my opinion, more convenient than what we have now. We are talking about building a Kansas City-sized airport that is going to meet all of the conveniences that we have now. And for those folks who are not having a convenient experience at KCI, if you're flying out early in the morning or on Thursday evenings and you're running into a lot of congestion, you're going to see a more convenient airport.
Let's go through a few other items in a short amount of time that we have left. What about the convention hotel? Is it in progress now? Is it moving forward?
The last update that I received was that we have J.E. Dunn, who is leading the charge, looking at getting the maximum price, and I think they hope to have that done by April, and they are looking forward to possibly a May groundbreaking. So the last update the council received was that that was moving forward.
So it might open in 2018, late in that year, or
you know, I am a journalist and lawyer by training, and so I can't speculate. It's against my nature.
I'm sure you would say that you're confident the infrastructure bond issue will pass on April the 4th, but what if it does not? What happens then? Do the streets, sidewalks go unattended?
Well, no, we're obviously not going to not going to leave things unattended. One of the things that we have a responsibility of doing is maintaining our streets and sidewalks. But what we will be able to do if we do pass this is we'll be able to get ahead of the maintenance schedule. And so I think you'll just see things move slower than what our citizens want if it does not pass.
Some people see you as a prospective future mayor of Kansas City. Do you see yourself in that same light?
You know, Mike, right now I see myself as someone who's going to work my tail off to get this GO bond passed on April 4th, get a new terminal built at the airport, and then as we get closer to 2019, I'll be able to have that discussion with folks.
Great. Thanks very much for coming in. Come back and see us.
Thanks, Mike.
That is Kansas City, Missouri, 4th District Councilwoman Jolie Justice. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus. John Stevens is the head of Rock Hill Strategic. Annie Presley is a writer, publisher, and GOP fundraiser. Patrick McInerney is a former prosecutor, now in private practice at Spencer Fane. And Steve Rose is a Johnson County civic leader and columnist at the Kansas City Star. Good to have all of you with us. Welcome to the program. A lot to talk about. First time most of us read about a Johnson County International Airport concept came from scouring a Steve Rose column a few weeks ago. And then last Sunday, the story hit the Kansas City Star's front page, featuring details and speculation about behind-the-scenes discussions in the Sunflower State. The story gained some credibility because of the indecision on the Missouri side about whether KCI should be rebuilt as a one-terminal facility or revamped and upgraded. There's certainly a lot to discuss, so let's start with Steve. What have you been learning about this idea since the story showed up on page 1?
Really, when I first learned something was back in December when I asked the chair of Johnson County, Ed Eilert, what he thought about a Johnson County airport if they didn't get their act together in Kansas City. And he said, I can't comment because I've signed a letter of confidentiality. So
That gave you
Wow.
a clue.
Yeah, thanks for that.
that was a clue. That was a clue. So that was really what precipitated me to write the column. What I've learned since then is that a lot of Kansas Cityans and others scoffed at the idea, but I think they scoff at their own peril because I think this is a serious proposal. And if Kansas City voters turn down the one terminal concept, Southwest Airlines and the other airlines are going to put tremendous pressure on to move to another location so that they can grow in this market.
Well, one of the things Steve has recommended, and you may have heard me say to Councilwoman Justice, is why doesn't the council just go ahead, if they think it's so important, just go ahead and pass it? It does not have to legally go to a public vote. Now, she says that won't work because it had been promised to Citizens for Responsible Government that there would be a public vote, but what's next? Are we going to have an election in like August?
Well, I think certainly one, while a Johnson County airport would be a long shot because of $3 billion, $4 billion costs of all the infrastructure.
And 10 or 15 years?
I think 10 years, but you're talking a new terminal at KCI is on the most aggressive schedule, 5, 6, 7 years away.
But there's an airport existing in
There
the
is an
interim.
existing airport. So I think that, yes, it does need to go to a public vote. That was promised. That was publicly stated. But realistically, KCMO needs to get their act together. They need to have honest dialogue and discussion. They need to continue to educate the public and explain the importance of this because there is a very real possibility that the airlines will listen when Governor Brownback or others in Johnson County call.
Well, one of the
They
things,
will.
and one of the things that Brownback said was, what, 50% of the Kansas City of KCI traffic of residents here comes from Johnson County. That's a legitimate
Or from
point.
Kansas.
Or from Kansas.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
52+%.
That's a really legitimate point. Raise your hand if you really think there's ever going to be a major commercial general aviation airport in Johnson County, right? But it gets this conversation started, and it underlines the fact that Kansas is not represented in this decision. So I don't know why we're not talking about a regional airport authority. Why hasn't that conversation started? Because when you look at the demographics and you look at the usage, that conversation, I think, could play a real key part in this.
And the mechanisms already exist for a regional airport
Sure they
authority.
do. Bi-state,
Be it KCATA,
you're exactly
others could
right.
do it.
You know, Annie, it almost seems like somebody in Kansas City got in touch with Sam Brownback and said, you know, you could do us a great deal of help if you would talk about wanting to build an airport in Johnson County, and that would get people off the dime in Kansas City, Missouri, with regard to KCI. That kind of thing can't happen in politics, I understand, but one has to wonder.
Well, that was a distraction technique, I'm sure, on Governor Brownback's
Why?
part.
You think he has other problems?
Because he might have some other issues that he's frustrated with. I like your idea, but I think we need to look a little bit bigger at the 11 million people who came through there last year. 14% of those were from the greater Kansas City area. So 7% of that, half of that 14% came from the Kansas side. So there are a lot of people not from Kansas City who enjoy this airport, and that's really the people we were talking about who hate it.
Well, Steve, in the past, you said it would be impossible to persuade voters to change airports in Kansas City, that people are wedded to the idea of KCI as it now exists. I believe you said, I can't imagine an advertising and PR campaign that would change voters' minds.
I think
if that's the case,
right,
then putting it on the ballot won't make any difference. It will get defeated.
Well, I think it really, unfortunately, I think it really will get defeated. There are huge number of voters who never use KCI,
who don't
go out there, don't care one way or the other. So why would they vote for something like that?
I think it's too early to tell.
There's a huge number
that
think it's so convenient that it could never be replaced. You have Sam Graves, the congressman who support. I mean, it goes on and on and on. The list goes on.
But what happened last?
Very difficult.
But what happened last year was it was a double, right? Nobody ever got around to home base. There was never any public education. It was up against e-tax. I mean, there were all kinds of distractions last year. So if there's a full and robust public education campaign, I think it's a different equation.
And the pause button was hit after one initial early poll result.
Correct.
That's silly. And we have not fully, I bet if you polled the majority of Kansas City metro residents, they would say their taxpayer dollars are directly funding the airport currently, and it would in the future. And that's not the case. It's an enterprise center.
Okay, now we have to take off to another topic. That was an airport.
That was good.
A little lighthearted humor. Wow. The Kansas City Star's new editorial board took a stand recently that is rather unusual and to some quite outrageous. The Star says state legislators in Missouri and Kansas deserve a pay raise. The Star labels lawmakers as, and I quote, hardworking folks who often toil 12 or 15 hours a day. It's a merciless grind, and yes, they signed up for it, but they deserve a reasonable salary for their efforts. Missouri lawmakers get about a $36,000 salary with $114 a day for expenses while in session. In Kansas, the salary is only about $8,000 a year, but with $142 daily for expenses. So, Annie, is this something you can support? Bigger salaries for state lawmakers in Missouri and Kansas?
This is a sticky wicket. There is no question about it. And truthfully, I'm not sure we're in a position right now, particularly in Missouri, in a position to go forward with these raises. There's a recent CBIZ report that says that state employees in Missouri are 50 out of 50, 50th in average pay, and the governor came out against it. We've got all kinds of budget issues, a budget gap of over $400 million.
Did you say Missouri was 50th out of 50?
Yes.
Well, where's
CBIZ
Kansas?
report. I don't know. I didn't check Kansas.
Well,
The
with Kansas,
2016 governor's report conducted by CBIZ.
if Kansas is only paying
lowest paid.
$8,000 a year to...
No, she's talking about state employees.
State employees.
State employees. Well, we're
employees.
talking about
And-
lawmakers here.
And they make about the same amount as the part-time legislators. So leadership is basically the essence of making good decisions. And I feel like legislators who get paid twice as much as average state employee giving themselves a raise probably not a very good idea right now.
All right, John, what about you? More money for state legislators, not state employees, state legislators.
Certainly, in theory, yes, but much as Annie said, I think while you were facing some budget constraints, particularly when the legislature has over and over and over failed to raise the state employee rates, the ones who are cleaning the highways, the ones who are patching potholes, doing all of this work. Until you do that, and also the second one, there has been more obstruction on ethics reform in Jefferson City than most any other place in the country. And until you can move ethics reform forward and you can get reasonable salaries for state employees, I don't think you can have that third
Why is
discussion.
the Star even talking about this? What brought this to their attention?
Well, I think the reality is a more professional more thoughtful legislator, elected
Well, there
officials.
was an
Those are
effort.
valuable.
There was an effort to-
high-profile mugging that Greitens did.
Yeah, there was an effort.
Oh, it
to-
was. It was
hang on.
him
That
attacking.
arm breaking.
There was an effort to pass a pay raise in Missouri, right?
and then-
and two Republicans, state senators Danny
it. Right.
Hoskins and Paul Weiland, voted for it.
Correct.
And then Greitens called them in. Yeah.
Carries on this, public employment as a legislature is equal to welfare. It's this shaming of public servants. And you just said it. It's a hard job, and it doesn't last January to May. It's all year in Missouri. It is constituent meetings every day, constituent meetings on the weekends. It is to do all that and then go down and have a governor buttonhole you and try to shame you into getting a 2.5% raise. Oh, in the last
But the reality is that the salary increase for legislators is
embarrassing.
about as likely to happen as the airport in Johnson County. I mean, in fact, the airport's more likely. What they really ought to do, honestly, is to raise their per diem expense rates. And I think the voters would not be upset about that, because those costs of living outside of your hometown are fairly substantial.
Travel.
And those costs go up every year. So I think that if they wanted to kind of in the back door give themselves a little more money, I think that's the way to do it.
I was surprised, Steve, as a Kansan, to read that it's only $8,000 a year for legislators, plus some payment for daily expenses. No wonder it's hard to get a lot of people to run for state office in Kansas.
Well, that's right, and I think it's a shame. Honestly, I think that people are way underpaid, and the legislators work really. It's almost impossible to carry on another career.
Correct.
While you spend all that time in the legislature, and it's a punitive amount of salary, no question about it.
And Annie, I think Patrick is right in saying it's a year-round job. It's not just a few months in Jeff City or a few months in Topeka. You really are involved in the process year-round.
About 5 months in your town, and then you're on the road, constituent meetings, that sort of thing. A lot of travel, a lot of driving. All of that's happening. The optics right now are just not good, considering the budget troubles they have on both sides of the state.
But when are the optics going to be good? When are the optics ever going to be good to raise the pay of legislators?
Well,
they weren't 25 years ago. They weren't 15 years
But
ago.
let's review why all the people got voted in who
I
were in.
understand
They
that.
wanted something different.
But I think we
but
can
you
all
get what you pay for in that context.
and we can all agree that Greitens taking political advantage by attacking those two legislators was uncalled for.
Kind of a
that's-
rookie mistake.
And this
It was a
Right.
rookie mistake.
And this is a man who lives in public housing, by the way.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not as though he's separate and apart.
Well, he's also the guy who won election by talking about frugality in government. And,
True.
He wasn't.
But you know
point.
what? It wasn't about frugality. Those weren't his comments. His comments were shaming legislators who stood up for fair compensation.
Well, he was talking about not raising salaries for lawmakers, and to me, that is frugality, at least in one sense.
If you read his statements, it was more about shame.
But you know what he ran on, what his
Sure, I
campaign
understand
was
that.
about.
Right.
All right. The Visit KC organization, the folks who work to bring conventions and vacationers to Kansas City, believes the city has momentum. But the group's CEO, Ronnie Burt, says this is not time to slow down. He cites 3 priorities to keep momentum going. One is the expansion of the downtown streetcar line to the Country Club Plaza. Another is to complete the much talked about 800-room convention hotel near the downtown convention center. And the third priority, of course, is build what he terms a modern single terminal airport fit for today's travelers. For the sake of our discussion, let's assume that all 3 are legitimate priorities. How would you rank them in terms of importance? What's the most important? What's second important? The least. Let's rank the 3, streetcar expansion, convention hotel, and new airport, in order of importance to Kansas City's momentum, and start with Patrick.
1, 1, and 1. We can do
They're equally
we can do
important?
all these things in this city right now at the same time. It's a matter of political will, and it's a matter of leadership. I mean, we're at the apex right now of gravity in Kansas City. We're at the apex of movement, and everybody's wearing it on their lapel right now. You know what? Part of that is being responsible for taking on big responsibilities right now and paying for them and finding the political capital to get them done. We can do this because this city is big and grown up and mature.
But Steve Rose, one of the reasons none of this can be done right away or easily, except for the downtown convention hotel, which is already set to go, is the initiative petition process, about which you write a great deal.
I think it is a stumbling block for the city, and I think that it is led because it's so easy to get a petition going in Kansas City. It's ridiculous. And as a result, they have stopped the momentum for the city. I mean, but they're talking about making the streetcar vote a citywide vote. That would probably, kill any future expansion. They've already pushed through the public vote for the airport. That's going to make that extraordinarily difficult. I think the people, I don't know, maybe they probably are well-intended, but they are really running the government of Kansas City, and it's making it extremely difficult
But
to
John,
move.
it's their government.
Well, it is their government, but I think very few people, when they really think about it, signed up for true direct petition democracy. They signed up for a representative democracy.
Well, yeah, the form of our governments in this country is republic in form.
Right.
We decide who decides in most cases.
Absolutely, and I think you look at Johnson County. Johnson County has petition initiative language as well. It's just a much higher threshold that is much more reasonable.
Well, but part of that was the result of the mayor's race. The number of
Absolutely.
signatures on petitions
Certainly.
depends on how many people voted in the mayoral race, and it was quite low because there was no serious competition
Certainly.
to Sly James.
But along with what Patrick said, I think back to Visit KC, those three.
You used to be with Visit KC, didn't you?
I'm still on the board of directors. So yes, and I do think Visit KC has the right priorities. They have the priorities in place. Tourism, conventions, and meetings are a revenue tax generator to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars for the city. The city is big enough, it is strong enough that it can take on three projects simultaneously and make them happen.
But what about the bond? We talked about our $800 million bond that the city's touting,
Right.
and it's interfered with every one of these conversations.
Well, certainly, but that's by council and mayoral choice as far as how do you rank these things and what brain power can people take on at the same time, and I think we can do more. The hotel is already headed down a path to
When
become
is it going
reality.
to open? Do you know?
You can't put me on the spot like that, but I do think it is getting very close to.
But they've not started building it yet.
No, they still have to.
Do I remember correctly that we had to move quickly on the hotel, or it would get away, and there had to be action by the city council?
Well, and I think
like
that they did. They had to because the
and-
assembling private financing and assembling the private land ownership takes time.
Okay, Annie, is streetcar expansion to the plaza critical to the city's momentum?
Well, everybody knows I think the streetcar is nothing more than a party bus. I've said that.
Is a party bus to the plaza critical to the city's momentum?
It's going to take a very long time to get from one end to the other, and I was not in favor of the way they did the taxing on the first round downtown, where, for example, my renters got to vote, and I got to pay the tax. So if they use that same concept, it's going to be very tough to get all those people along that corridor to pay for that. I like it. I like the concept of it because the tourists love it.
Well, and citizens. Citizens are using it a lot. 90% of the businesses along the current streetcar route look favorably now upon the success.
But you did ask to rank, and I think
Yeah.
that the Chamber of Commerce of Greater Kansas City and others would say that hands down the airport
Yeah.
is the single most important thing that the
I
city
agree.
Oh,
can do.
certainly. Terminal, streetcar,
And then
hotel.
the
Right.
airport, or the airport, then the hotel, then the...
No, I think it's terminal, streetcar, hotel.
All right, we'll terminate this discussion because it's time to head to the soapbox for Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes have 30 seconds each to offer a pat on the back or a kick in the pants to people and events in the news. And we start with John.
My toast is to the Kansas City Public Library because while consistently, month after month, doing excellent programming for all citizens of Kansas City, they have launched two other initiatives, one called the RISE program, and have specifically focused on immigrants and refugees and providing resources, positive educational resources, and legal resources to the immigrant and refugee populations in Kansas City. And additionally, the most recent Coffees and Conversations, which is the program for homeless and unemployed citizens of Kansas City, and offering resources and assistance for them. So kudos to the Kansas City Public Library.
Patrick.
My toast today is to Woody Overton, who was a longtime friend and leader and mentor in Kansas City politics, and he provided guidance to people on both sides of the aisle. He was blue all day long and lived as a Democrat, worked as a Democrat, but was a trusted counselor for public servants and people in positions of authority for decades, and we will miss him greatly.
Good guy.
He was head of GSA for a while.
He was,
he not?
yeah.
A good guy. I
Really
liked
good
him
guy.
as well. All right, Annie.
Ollie Gates is my guy today. In 1920, the Negro Leagues began in the downtown YMCA at 18th and Vine. And Ollie has refurbished it over the course of about 5 years with personal money and personal just perseverance. And he's going to give it to the city. And the city is going to make it part of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And I'm very proud of him for having done that.
Mr. Rose.
Yeah, I'd like to toast the Pitch Weekly newspaper, which is no longer going to be weekly. It's going in April, going to be monthly. And I just wish them luck because I think it's important for the city to have that alternative voice. And if it's going to be in a monthly format, I hope they continue to do good investigative journalism. We need it as an alternative to the good journalism at the Star.
You're acting like print publications are having problems. And finally, here is a roast to someone who apparently doesn't eat roast or much of anything else. Actress Lena Dunham of HBO's Girls program says when people comment on her weight loss, she credits Donald Trump, saying, when he became president, I stopped being able to eat. To others interested in her diet plan, she says, try soul-crushing pain and devastation and hopelessness, and you too will lose weight. Do I believe the leaner Lena? Fat chance. And that's Ruckus for this week. We're back next Thursday at 7. Now for the Ruckettes and the crew, I'm Mike Shannon saying thanks very much for watching. You were a great panel, by the way, and good night.